architectures, cloud native, microservices, API management, and so forth. We are looking forward to learning new things with Ronaldo today. But before I hand off, I would like to remind you a few things. The webinar is being broadcasted on multiple channels. That is, along with Zoom, you can find it on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. So spread the word, tweet about it, share the information with your colleagues and friends. We appreciate the help. The presentation will be shared with the registered participants. For all your questions, there's a Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. Kindly use that and we will take the questions during the Q&A time. We also request you to take a virtual selfie and tweet about it. This is to thank Ronaldo for his time. We'll share the handles as well as the hashtags to use. At the end of the session, we will run an online quiz where you can win some prizes. So let's see who gets them today. So with this, I think we're good to begin. Ronaldo, could you kindly take over?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
How are you? Thank you for inviting me to the event. I am from Mexico, as you can see in my background. I am very, very excited to share with you this content about Oracle going cloud native. I am going to talk about some of the elements that Oracle already have for cloud native development and platform. I'm actually going to do everything live. I'm going to provision everything from scratch. And then we are going to make some very simple services and deploy them on top of these platforms. So everything is going to be live. I'm about to start sharing my screen. So, all right. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to present some slides. And as I mentioned, I'm going to do everything live, so hopefully everything works and the internet doesn't make me go wrong, but everything is going to be live. This is a session about cloud native, so let's start it. I am Rolando Carrasco. I am from Mexico. These are my contact details if you want to contact me after the session, or if you have any questions regarding the topic or whatever. Here are my details, my email, my Twitter handler, my blog, and also my LinkedIn, all right? Well, you can contact me through those channels, all right? So first of all, and before we get into this session, I was wondering where the similarities between India and Mexico, and I realized that we have a lot of similarities. The first one is that we are in the Tropic of Cancer crosses both countries, as you can see in the image. Both countries have deserts at the north of the countries, and we also have tropical rainforests. So in terms of weather and those things, I think we are pretty much similar. We also have similarities in food, as you can see here in the screen. So at the left is a common Indian food, and at the right we have Mexican food. So it's kind of similar in my opinion. I went to an event in 2018 in Bangalore, and I realized that, or I confirmed those similarities. So I think there are very strong similarities between both countries. And the last thing that I want to share with you in terms of similarities is this one. So at the left is Mexican people with those dresses, which are kind of, which I think they were brought from India. I think the story tells me that they were brought from India, and now in Mexico we use them in a lot of ceremonies, and it is very well respected in terms of whoever is wearing those type of dresses is very well respected. And at the right of the screen, obviously we have dresses from India. So I think we have a lot of similarities in that regard. I can mention more, but I just wanted to highlight this just to share with you that, all right? So let's start it. This is part of our work. As I mentioned, I am from Mexico. I work for a company by the name SPS, which is a consulting firm. We have like around maybe 12 years or so doing this, working very closely with Oracle. And this is part of our work in terms of publishing books. At the left side of the window of the slide, sorry, we have Oracle API Management 12c implementation book, which was released back in 2015, and it is kind of old now, obviously because of the years, but also because of the technology. The technology has changed a lot from 2015 to now. Actually, this product is not anymore in the market. So as you can imagine, this book, I mean, it is good because we talk about how to make an API strategy, but on the other hand, the product is not so new now. I mean, technology is moving so fast that books that we've written a couple of years ago now, they feel kind of old. At the right side of the screen, we have another book which was published even, it was even earlier. It was in 2010, I think. It was one of my colleagues from SPS who wrote it, and it was about Web 2.0 solutions. So even the Web 2.0 topic by itself is not so new, right? But then I move into reviewing books. I've been a technical reviewer for several books now, and these two that are on the screen are for Oracle Cloud, implementing Oracle Cloud integration and implementing API Platform Cloud Services, which it happens that the one at the right, it is kind of the next step of the book that was published in 2015, the one that I just mentioned. So these two books are kind of new in terms of the topic, in terms of the product, in terms of the platform. Even Oracle has been progressing in those two platforms. I think they are pretty much valid, or they remain valid, right? And the last book that I've been involved with is this one. It was last year, August 2019. This is not about a product. This is not about a platform. This is much more about if you want to follow an enterprise API management strategy, this is a good book for that, because this is going to tell you how to start it, how to develop it, and how to deploy it in terms of a strategy. So this is very much a book about API management strategy, all right? Okay, so before we continue, as I told you, everything is going to be provisioned live. So I am going to provision a Oracle Kubernetes Engine cluster. So I will create the cluster while we talk through the slides. So let me just create it. Okay. Let me just copy the name of the cluster because we need it. All right. And this is very straightforward. I'm just going to create it and then I'm going to explain it to you, but we need to deploy the cluster before we get into the live demo, right? So, okay, this is the name of my clusters. I want 3 nodes for my Kubernetes cluster. Pretty much that's it. Just create it, and this is going to provision everything that we need for our Kubernetes cluster, all right? So I'm gonna leave it like this. I'm just going to wait for the node pool. Okay, so I think we may continue. And when we finalize the slides, then we're going to get back and see how the cluster was provisioned, and then we are going to use it, okay? So I just wanted to deploy it before, or create it before we started, because it takes like maybe 15 minutes to get created, which is pretty fast, to be honest, all right? Okay, so this is another thing about my company. We are part of an alliance, which is the Red Expert Alliance. It is a group of companies based in Europe, based in North America, and based in Australia, and we are part of that. It is a group of Oracle and technology experts, if you will, and we are part of that. SPS is part of that, and also I am part of the Oracle Groundbreakers Ambassador Program and the Oracle ACE program as well. If you are interested on those advocacy programs by Oracle, you can go to Google and search for Oracle ACE program or Oracle Groundbreakers Ambassador Program. And you can, if you are interested on joining those advocacy programs, then you can read whatever it is in the internet in terms of how you can engage with these programs, all right? Okay, So this is the agenda for today. I think we're going to take like maybe 45 to 50 minutes to talk about cloud native development and how Oracle is using it. And also I'm going to, as I already told you, I'm going to make some live demos so you can see how to use it. And I think we're going to take like 45 to 50 minutes for the entire presentation. Okay. All right. So we are in 2020 and probably or it seems like some of the Oracle technology that we've been using for development purposes in the past looks and feels kind of old. That's probably kind of the way that people is now thinking regarding the development tools with Oracle, and because WebLogic and probably even the Oracle database itself, because the way that we used to create applications, and probably you are thinking, okay, but this is kind of old. I mean, WebLogic, it's been a long time in the market, and people is still using it, obviously, and it will continue using it, but it is not like the first approach to develop a modern application, right? But just let me tell you three things. The first one is that it's not that old. If we are talking about WebLogic itself, WebLogic just released a new version back in, I think it was, I don't know if it was February or March this year. So it is release number 14. So it is not that old. We already have a new version for that. Okay, so it is not that old. Secondly, Oracle has a very good offering for modern development. So not even the old school things are still there, and they actually have a new release. But in the other hand, Oracle has a very good offering for modern development or cloud native development or even serverless development, which is all available through the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So this is kind of the good news, if you will, and this is probably something different for you or something that you have not tested yet. All right, which is good, because the reason why we are delivering this session is for you to learn and understand that those things are there in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And in the other hand, Oracle is doing a lot of things to help customers to move some of their workloads into the cloud. And some of that, all the stuff or all technology is that you are probably thinking about is actually moving into that direction. All right. So it is not that fair to say that there is no option for modern development with Oracle. I think Oracle has a lot of stuff on that regard. It is also not fair to say that Oracle has no cloud development offering or a cloud native approach. That is also not fair to say it, and nor that your current investment is lost and cannot be moved to the cloud and get integrated with modern approaches. Those are not fair arguments, and I'm going to prove it now in this presentation, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so this presentation is targeted for two main audiences, right? For people who is interested on cloud native development, so you can realize that Oracle has an offering for you, and it is actually pretty good. And for people who is probably already working with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and it is not aware of that, but they are already using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, so you better know that this offering is there and you can use it. Okay, so if you are in either of those two groups, this session I think may be valuable for you. Okay, so what is that what we call cloud native? We go to Google and we just type cloud native concept, we will get this kind of information. All right, that cloud native technologies are used to develop applications built with services packaged in containers, for example. That going cloud native means abstracting away many layers of infrastructure, network, servers, and operating systems, for example, as well. And that with cloud native applications, you can ship faster, you can reduce risk and grow your business. That's also another concepts that you can get from Google and from the internet itself. All right. If you go to Oracle and actually you go to oracle.com/cloud native, you can get this. So you can get that for Oracle, cloud native is using containers, using microservices, using continuous integration, using infrastructure as a code, using serverless features, and using streaming to ingest data streams for real-time web applications. So it's pretty much, everybody's pretty much aligned on what is cloud native, or at least what we can find in the internet in terms of the terminology about cloud native. And all that is true, obviously. We are talking about containers, definitely, abstractions of different layers. We want to focus on our development and then kind of get an abstraction about whatever is behind the scenes in terms of operating systems and networks and all that stuff. It must provide kind of an elastic infrastructure. Microservices as an architecture is pretty much aligned with this because of the way it is deployed and the way that we build services. And obviously we are looking for a faster deployment, agility for deployment, and growing your business actually, right? So this is kind of the elements that we think every time that someone tells about cloud native, we must be thinking about these things. And it is a way to deploy and to develop software. That's in a nutshell, that's what it is. It is just a way to create and deploy software. That's what we get when we talk about cloud native. But there are some characteristics that make it kind of unique, if you will. I don't know if you have the chance to read this book about cloud native patterns. It is by Cornelia Davis, and it is a very good book. If you are looking to get into this cloud native development and you want to learn about it, this is a good way to start it, right? And some of the things that this book depicts is about, with cloud native, change is the rule. And change is the rule in terms of how the infrastructure is moving around. The place or the infrastructure where we deploy our application is constantly changing, all right? Our applications are also constantly changing. And that's the rule. It is not the other way around. With cloud native, change is the rule and not the exception. Okay, when we are building software and we have a stable application nowadays and we want to make a change, people sometimes think, no, don't make any change because you will break it. If it is already working, why would you like to make a change? Or every time that we want to release a new feature for our applications, it is, as the book explains it, we even have it is very, we have a lot of steps to do it, right? So we do it at night, and then during the morning we have this war room just to monitor whatever is happening. We also are trying not to make a rollback because we know that if we make a rollback, it's going to be a chaos. So it is very unique the way that we are currently delivering software and making changes. So cloud native is the other way around. We are making changes constantly, and obviously there are very popular examples about this. For if you go to internet and search for Netflix and all those large companies, and you will see that they do a lot of deployments per day. And sometimes we are even reading and learning that they do hundreds or even thousands of deployments per day. Obviously, they are very large companies, and the companies where we work or the companies where we deploy our software probably they are not as large as them. But there is a common thing between them and us, that we need to deploy new releases of our applications, and the business is constantly growing, and that is why we need to make constant changes to our application. So in cloud native, change is the rule. Also, it is a distributed architecture, so we have many components talking together, probably via events. We have third-party services that we use to create our applications. Some of those things are serverless, and we intend to use serverless in terms to reduce the complexity of the deployment of the infrastructure, and we kind of focus on our development. It is true that they are using microservices, and also it is very true, and it is very common that they are deployed on top of a Kubernetes cluster in any type of flavor, right? In any cloud provider. Now we are talking about Oracle, and obviously we are going to showcase it on top of Oracle. And or an additional characteristic about cloud native development is that the system must perform as a single unit, regardless how many replicas it has, all right? So we have an application and we can actually replicate it, and I'm going to showcase that during my demo. And the system must remain it must continue working as it has one replica. It doesn't matter if it is replicated 1 time or 10 times or 100 of times or 1,000 of times, right? The system is changing, and probably today I have 100 of replicas, but tomorrow, because of the load, or we created a campaign or whatever, now we need more power, and now we need, instead of 100 replicas, now we need a 200 replicas or whatever. So the system must remain working as a single unit, and that's kind of the characteristics of a cloud native application. And it is highly desirable to be stateless as well. Okay, so that was the introduction. But does Oracle has an offering around cloud native? That would be the question, maybe, for some of you. And the answer is yes, of course. It does have a cloud native offering. Actually, it's all of this, what is in the screen now, and actually more. Oracle has a API gateway, a very lightweight API gateway. Oracle has a function as a service offering, which is called Oracle Functions, which is running on top, or is being built on top of the FM project by Apache, which is going to be in the quiz, so just take a note for that. Oracle also has a container engine registry. It has also different tools to develop applications. For example, Helidon.io, it is an open source project which is supported by Oracle. Oracle also have this streaming and also the Kafka compatibility that you can deploy on top of the Oracle cloud infrastructure. So it has many features and many products and platforms for you to create and deploy a cloud native application. And obviously Oracle has a Kubernetes offering, which is Oracle Kubernetes Engine, okay, which is the one that I just created before we started, okay? And even more, Oracle also has this Oracle Linux cloud native environment, which is pretty much a set of products and platforms already deployed on top of Oracle Linux, and it is ready, if you will, for cloud native development. So it has a lot of things, and that is why I wanted to present this, because it is common that people does not realize this, that Oracle has all this offering. And in the other hand, if you are evaluating cloud native platforms, or if you are evaluating where to deploy your cloud native application, and Oracle is a good place for that, okay? So we are talking about all these components, the Oracle Kubernetes Engine, the Oracle Containers Registry, which is a containers registry, as the name itself mentioned it. So it's your private containers registry on top of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Oracle also has Oracle Functions for the Oracle function as a service offering, serverless, completely serverless function as a service offering, which is based on the FM project. Oracle has Oracle events, which are events that happens within the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and actually they are based on the Cloud Native Foundation events definition. Oracle also has the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure API Gateway. Oracle is streaming with the Kafka compatibility, as I already mentioned. And for monitoring and notifications, they have the Oracle Cloud Monitoring and Notification Platform, and the Oracle Linux Cloud Native environment that I just mentioned. And not only that, the Oracle also has this Oracle Ground VM offering, Oracle Coherence, and the Helidon.io programming framework, or Java programming framework for microprofile. And so you can actually create a lot of things with all these tools and all this platform. And it is pretty much cloud native oriented. Oracle Functions, Oracle Events, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure API Gateway, Oracle Kafka compatibility, they are serverless offerings. So you just need to enable the service, and you just use it. And every time you use it and you deploy it, and actually you have transactions on top of it, then you pay for that. If you don't have any transaction, then you don't need to pay anything. So it is a very strong offering. In terms of pricing, it is very low prices for pretty much all these offerings. So you better test them. Okay. So we are just about to finalize the slides, and then I'm going to move to the live demo. Probably the cluster is already provisioned. Hopefully it has passed for already 10 minutes, so I think it's going to be already there. So the Kubernetes engine, the Oracle Kubernetes engine, it is a Kubernetes cluster. So it It is nothing more, nothing less. It is pure Kubernetes cluster on top of OCI. So if you want to create a cluster of Kubernetes, then this is an option, and this is a good option. It is a plain Kubernetes. It doesn't anything more than anything less, but the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. If you want a private container registry, you have the Oracle Containers Registry. If you are looking for a serverless platform, function as a services serverless platform, then you have Oracle Functions. You can create functions with Java, with Go, with Node. And I'm actually going to create 3 different functions with those 3 different programming languages. If you want to create Oracle events throughout your infrastructure, so you want to react or if you want to react, to events that happens within the Oracle infrastructure, and they are standard-based events, then you can create it with Oracle events. If you have a set of microservices, a set of functions, if you want to incorporate an API gateway, then you have the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure API gateway as well. And if you are using Kafka and you want to get the compatibility on top of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, you can get it as well with Oracle Kafka compatibility. All right. Okay, so that's it for the slides. I'm done with the slides. We've been talking about around 26, 27 minutes now. I just mentioned that Oracle has a modern cloud native offering. I just mentioned that Oracle has continued investing in their old products, and actually they have new releases, and actually they can kind of live together of these things. That would be part of another presentation, but they have, for example, the WebLogic operator that can be run on top of Oracle Kubernetes or any Kubernetes cluster, even with OpenShift by Red Hat. So you can deploy actually WebLogic now into a Kubernetes cluster, which is, I think it is a good option for you if you have that scenario. We also talk about the different elements that Oracle has for cloud native development. And now we are going to focus on three things for our demonstration. I have already created a cluster, so I'm going to connect to the cluster and deploy a set of services. I'm going to do that just from scratch. Then I'm going to create 3 different functions with Oracle Functions, one function with Go, another one with Java, and another one with Node.js. And finally, we're going to choose any of those 3 functions. It doesn't matter which one we choose. And we are going to pass it through the Oracle API gateway. I mean, the API gateway is going to be in front of the function, so you can see how easily it is to do that, okay? All right, so let's see how that goes. So let's just get back here. So I think the cluster has been created. Okay, so now we have the cluster status as active. As you remember, we have a cluster with 3 nodes, okay? So we can get back here, and we have a cluster by the name my first OKE cluster. It has a node pool, and that node pool is created by 3 worker nodes. All right. Okay. So how can I deploy things on top of this cluster? It's pretty easily. So I have a set of nodes right here because we need to type some commands. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to set a list of environment variables. So let me clear this thing. I'm going to, okay, I think it is a good size right there. Okay. So I'm just executing these environment variables just to be ready for the next commands that I'm going to execute. I just did that to get this cluster ID. Okay, so the cluster ID that we are going to use, and this is for the entire Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, you get something that they call the OCI ID or the OCID. Every single resource in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure has an identifier, and for our cluster is this one. And this identifier, which is at the end of it, it has a Z, R, and T. You can actually find it here. Okay, so this is the cluster ID, and as I mentioned, it ends in CRT. All right, so I'm going to work on top of this cluster that we just created, and the first thing that we need to do is to create the kube-config file. Okay, so if you are familiar with Kubernetes, then you know that you need to have a kubeconfig file in order to connect to the cluster. So I have just created in that step, and then I'm just going to declare another environment variable just to, okay, to point to that kubeconfig. And I'm just going to get the compartment ID where I've deployed this this cluster. If you are familiar with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, you know that every single resource is also deployed inside of a compartment. So we are working in the lab compartment, which is this one, and that lab compartment has this OCE ID, all right? And now I am going to get the namespace where I'm going to deploy everything, and then I think we will be ready to go to test our cluster. So I think I'm ready to go. I already have the kubeconfig, and now I must be ready to issue this thing. Oh, sorry. Okay, so hopefully everything is okay. That's perfect. We have no resources because the Kubernetes cluster is clean. If we get the namespaces that we have here, you may see that they've been active for the last 17 minutes. So this is a brand new Kubernetes cluster we just created. Maybe it took like 15 minutes to get created, which is pretty fast. And now, now that we have everything in place in terms of the cluster, I am going to clone a Git repository. But you know what? I'm going to create a folder right here for let me put it like this, RCPOKE. So we have a better order right here, okay? So let me clone it again, all right? And now I'm going to create a namespace by the name webinar. Oh, sorry. Namespace. Sorry, create namespace webinar. All right. Why? Because I'm going to deploy everything there. So if I reissue the get namespaces, now we have a new namespace. So this is pretty much a Kubernetes concepts. All right. Okay, so we have our application, which is based on this GitHub repository. You can take a look if you will. And now we are going to deploy whatever is in that in that repository of code, which is the following. We will deploy a Redis service on top of the cluster. That would be one thing. We are going to deploy a Go API, and with those two things, we are going to create, if you will, a very simple authentication service, right? So we are going to use Redis to store our authentications, maybe a token for that. And every time that you get authenticated through this service, you will get a new token. And that token is going to live for 2 minutes, and you can refresh the token. And then with that token, you can probably call another services, all right? So it is very simple. We have Redis for our database, if you will, in-memory database to store our tokens. And we will have a Go service to represent our API. That's basically what I'm going to do, and that is basically what we have in this Redis session API. Okay, so let's do it. Now we have our code, we have our Kubernetes already in place, we have a namespace by the name webinar, and we are going to deploy first Redis. Okay, so Redis. Okay, so Redis is being deployed. Now we are going to deploy the service. All right. Okay. And now let me okay. Let me see. Okay, so it is being created. Oh, sorry. So Redis is already there. The service is there. It was deployed 26 seconds ago. And now I'm going to build the Go API. Okay, I already have here the code because I just cloned it. And I'm going to create a Docker image with this. So it's been created pretty fast. And now I am going to tag it because I will deploy it on my, or register, sorry, to my Oracle Containers Registry, as I just mentioned in the slides. And I am going to use the Ashburn region to register my container. So I already log into the Ashburn Container Registry. And now I'm going to push it, okay? So the container that I just created, the container image that I just created, I'm going to push it. Okay, so now it is pushing it right to the registry. It is already there, sorry. Okay, I just need these two additional environment variables. Okay. And now I'm going to create a secret to store my container registry credentials. So this command has the name of the Docker server, which is Ashburn. Also, it has the username, which I already set it. It is here in this environment variable. It has a password. Obviously, I have not shown it here because it's my password, but I already set this password environment variable, and my email, which is the one that I just set, and the namespace, which is the one that we've been using. Okay, so with this, we are going to create a secret, and if we issue a get secrets in my namespace, oh, sorry again. Okay, it is this one. This is my secret. And we just need to export or set this another environment variable just to get the name of the image that we are going to use to represent our Go API. And we need to edit this session API YAML file to point to that image. All right, so let me just copy, and we need to edit this. All right, now it's pointing to a different Docker registry, but I'm going to point it to here. So we are ready to deploy our service, okay? So let me apply this. Okay. And this is going to create a service. Now we want to get the load balancer API that was assigned for that session service. And as you can see, it is pending right here. Okay. So we just need to wait to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to assign an IP. As you can see now, we have it. And this 150.136 whatever, it is actually a load balancer. So if you go to networking and you go to load balancers, now it has provisioned a load balancer for us, which is, what is the API? It is 41 at the end. So it is, we have 241, so it is 3141. So it is this one, okay? So it is creating, or it is provisioning for us a load balancer, which is the one that is going to receive all the transactions, all right, for this specific service. So everything is pretty well integrated within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and Kubernetes, all right? So now let's test it. So we need to get the IP address, okay? And I just stored it in this variable, session API variable. And now let's make some calls to the service. So we will issue this first curl to get the profile, okay? As you can see here. If we do this, okay, it returns that you need to log in to get a session ID. Remember, we deploy Redis and we deploy a Go API. The Redis database is to store our tokens. This is an authentication service, the one that we just deployed. If I want to get something, for example, the profile of a user, I need to share with, to send, sorry, the session ID in order to get a response from it. So I am going to do this curl to get a session ID, all right? Okay. So now we have a session ID in this variable. Okay, it is there. And now with that session ID, I can reissue the same curl to get the profile, and I am going to get the profile. Okay. Okay. So now it is returning this message, "Hi Hugo," which is the name of the user that is being authenticated now with the token. All right. We can refresh the token if we will. For example, if I'm not going to do that because we need to wait for 2 minutes in order to get the token to get destroyed. But if we reissue this, then we get a new token, okay, or a new session ID. All right. And now we will get the number of replicas that we have for our service now. And as you can see, it just has one replica. Actually, we do this, it could be kubectl get pods -n namespace. We will see that we just have one, okay, which is the session API. But as we've been talking, the system needs to perform as a single unit, regardless how many replicas it has. So I'm going to scale it for 10 replicas. So I'm going to use this to scale it. So I'm telling to the cluster to create 10 different replicas for this very same service, which is this session API. All right. So now it is creating the 10 replicas. If we reissue the get pods, now we have, it has already created 5 of them and it is still creating the rest of them. So we just need to wait for everything should be running. The 10 replicas should be running. Okay. So let's just give it some seconds for that. Okay. I don't know why it's taking that long, but now we are having 10 different replicas. And if we do the same thing, so if we create an additional session, it must perform in the same way, okay? And this is actually stateless. Our service is stateless because the Go API is not storing anything by their own. It is storing the session ID in the Redis service, right? So it is doing this thing that I just mentioned in the beginning. It is stateless. So it doesn't matter if it is going to hit one of these replicas. It doesn't matter because it's going to perform in the same way. So if I now do this, okay, so now it is returning exactly the same, not the same token, but it's doing exactly the same. But let me just show you something that must be interesting for you. So if I now do this, it must perform the same way. Now it is returning again the session. But let me show you something. If we get the pods again, all right, so we have the list of pods there. So every time that I do this curl, this is responding through a specific pod. For example, this one. So take a look at this last character. So it is this one, right? So in this case, it hit that pod. If we reissue, now it used this one, the XP one, which is here. So now every time that I am using, it is hitting a different pod. Okay, now it uses which one? The VX, which is that one, all right? But the system is performing in the same way. So I think that's pretty much for the Kubernetes demo. I just deployed a brand new Kubernetes demo in less than 15 minutes. Then I connect to the Kubernetes cluster pretty straightforward. And we actually deploy a Redis database. We deploy a Go API into the cluster. We test it, we use it, and we created different 10 replicas for our service. Okay, so now let's move into the next part of our demo, and with this I'm going to finalize my presentation. So now we are going to create a set of functions. Okay, now I'm going to use the FN project, but connected and deploy on top of Oracle functions. So I have the CLI by the name FN. You can get it from here, from this GitHub URL. So what you need in order to do what I'm going to perform now is to have the Oracle CLI for the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So it is this Aussie thing. Okay, so it is the CLI for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and you also need the FM project CLI as well. Okay. So now let me create a Java function. Now let's get started with Java. So just let's see how easily or how easy it is to create functions. So instead of type it, I'm going to, let me do something earlier. So sorry. We need to go to the web console, the functions menu, and we are working with a lab compartment. And then I'm going to create an application just like that. Let me just select a public subnet, and I'm going to create the application. So you normally create an application, and within an application you have different functions, and that's exactly what I just did. I just created this application, and within this application I'm going to deploy a set of functions. All right, so the first function that I'm going to deploy is a Java function. I'm going to call it hello world function, and just like this, it has already created me this folder and this function YAML file, a POM file, and the source. Obviously, the source is the code that I'm going to use for my function. So if you just do does this, is going to create this very simple Java class, which is going to receive a name, and this is just going to return hello and the name that you just sent. All right. So this was created when I initiated the runtime environment, which in this case is Java. All right. So now that I just initialized that, I'm going to deploy it, and this is where I am going to use my application, which is RCP webinar. Okay. So now it is packaging in a Docker image. It is registering, and it is actually deploying it inside my application, and it just finalized. And now I can invoke it. I just need the name of the application, and I just need the name of the function. All right. And this is invoking an Oracle function written in Java. All right, just like that. So it is taking some seconds because it is doing the cold start, and the cold start is around 15 to 20 seconds, which is not good. I think Oracle is doing something in order to improve that, because every time that you call the function, it is going to provision whatever is needed. So it is starting the container and whatever it is inside of it. So, but now that you have started, you can call it, and it's going to respond pretty fast. All right. So we have our first function, which is a Java function already running, and I can invoke it. Now what I'm going to do is to create a Go function. So let's do this. And we are going to do exactly the same thing. And I'm actually not going to copy paste. I'm going to reuse whatever I have now. So now I'm going to use a hello world function, Go function. So I'm going to start the runtime with Go. So now the runtime is there. Now I'm going to deploy it. So it is exactly the same thing. I'm going to deploy the, I'm going to deploy the function into my application. This is going to be even faster because the runtime for Go is lighter than Java. So it's going to, it has lesser dependencies, if you will. So it's going to create pretty fast the container and deploy it. Now it is deployed. It also created these three things, the YAML, which is a descriptor of the function, and actually the code. And the code is very simple as well. It is a very simple code, Go code that is going to receive the name of a person and then it's going to salute it. And now that I have it, I can invoke it just the same way. So it is like this, and it is hello world Go. And the same, but take a look how the cold start, it was in lesser time. It was maybe 2 seconds. So the cold start was nothing. Now let's create, and this is the final thing. Let's create a node-based function, and it is exactly the same. So this is obviously is a very simple example, right? But it is, as you can see, it is very straightforward. So now it created the very same three files. The function file. Oh, sorry, I think I did something wrong. Sorry. Let me remove it. Okay. And let me create it again. Sorry for that. So the runtime is not Go, obviously it is not. All right, so it created a folder, and then we have a function based on Node.js, pretty straightforward code. And now that we have it, we can deploy it in the same way. So it's like this, same way. So again, it is creating the image, and it is pushing it to the registry, and now it is deployed inside the application, and now we can invoke it. So we can do an invoke for RCP webinar, and the name of the the name of the function, right? Okay. So it took more seconds. As you saw, it was like maybe 5 seconds. So for Java, it took like maybe 15. Go, it took like 2 seconds, but that's the cold start. The cold start is for provisioning whatever the platform needs to deploy, and then it is the time for the application to start. So the time for the application to start for Go was very fast, in contrast with Java, for example. So the last thing that I'm going to do, and with this we are going to finalize our presentation, is we have created these three functions, right? And as I already mentioned, every single resource in OCI has an OCI ID, which is this one. So I'm going to copy the OCI ID for the Hello World Go function. I'm just going to copy, because in order to invoke a function, it is just the way that I just did. It was the fn invoke command, right? Which already includes security, because this is related with the OCI config that I have on that machine, and so I am able to call the functions. But if I want to call a function from outside the infrastructure, let's say that let's think that I have an application, a web application, a mobile application, or whatever that needs to call these functions, I can do it through the API gateway. And it is very simple. I just need to have the OCID for my function. I just copy it. And then in the menu, you just need to go to Developer Services and API Gateway. And here you can create a gateway. I have it in a different compartment, which is the API Gateway compartment. I already have a gateway right here. And I can create a deployment, all right? And you can create a deployment based on a function. And you can actually also do it just creating a JSON file. And let me just show it to you. This is the RCP Go webinar API. Okay, this is going to respond to /webinar, and I'm going to upload the definition with a file. Okay, so this is the JSON file that I need to use, and this is where the OCID is used. And okay, this is the name of the path, the base URI path, RCP API. And that's it. I'm telling this that I have an API. I want an API that is going to respond from /RCP API. It's just going to receive a get method, nothing more than that. And this needs to call this function, which is the one that we just created. Okay. And now that this is saved, I just need to select it from here. So, okay. So let me change this. Okay, so I have the name, this RCP Go webinar, so webinar API /webinar. I already have the JSON file right here, and it seems it's legit. So let's create it. So this is going to create an API within the OCI API gateway, pointing to our function. In order to call it, this is going to create this endpoint, which is this host name /webinar, which is the name that we used, and then /webinar / this thing right here that I just used. Sorry, I have it here. /RCP API, we will be able to call it. So let's copy this. And I think we can do it right here, RCP web, RCP API. Okay. We do it through Postman. It is exactly the same thing. It is exactly the same function, but now we are calling it through the OCI API gateway. So it's pretty straightforward in my opinion, and pretty powerful at the same time, because now you can pretty easily create functions, and then you can call those functions through the API gateway. So if I call it here, this needs to respond back to me. Okay. And this is the end of the presentation. I am just going to put name right here and study, and just like that. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much what I had. I didn't have time for this. I was thinking that I can make it just to showcase the Oracle events and Oracle notifications together with Oracle functions. But I think I have covered pretty much what I wanted. I just described how Oracle has a strong cloud native development offering. I showcased Kubernetes, the Oracle Kubernetes Engine, the Oracle functions. We provision everything from scratch. So everything was from scratch. So I think that's valuable at the same time, because you can see that this really works. So I think that's it. I don't know if there are questions in the chat. It says that what are the functionality you are performing on Kafka? Well, not in the demo. In the demo, I did not include Kafka for this. I probably may use it because it is also a very good platform. Oracle has this Kafka compatibility service, which is, as the name states, it is not Kafka itself, but it's a Kafka compatibility service. So you can create similar topics and things within this service, and it can be incorporated into what you just saw. You can use it together with Kubernetes. You can use it together with functions and so on. Okay, and that was the only. I don't know if anyone has an additional question. If not, I think we are going to make the quiz. And
yeah, so Rolando, I think as you know, we are streaming to different platforms. I can take a couple of questions from other channels. So one of the question from Jamal Khan, what kind of applications are good to move into Kubernetes? That's one of the question from YouTube.
Okay, so okay. What type of applications can be good to move to Kubernetes? Well, Kubernetes is a platform where you can deploy pretty much any type of application, if you will. Obviously, you are using Kubernetes because you are leveraging from containers, and if you are leveraging from containers, then you would like to have small footprints for those containers, and therefore probably if you are working on a microservices architecture, that would be the best way to do it. But at the same time, because Kubernetes is now supporting operators are software, or it is a piece of software that you can use and deploy on top of Kubernetes that can manage old-fashioned applications in a Kubernetes way. So if you have, for example, WebLogic, there is already an operator for WebLogic, so you can actually deploy applications on top of WebLogic and then actually deploy them on top of Kubernetes. So that was one question. I see right here, cloud native services offering for how many languages to work on. Well, the cloud native itself is not related with a specific programming language, because as you can see in my presentation, I use Go, I use Java, I use Node.js, and actually you can use pretty much any programming language that you can incorporate or you can include within a container. So if it is inside a container, you can deploy it, for example, in Kubernetes cluster. So it's pretty much can be any programming language. Also, I have a question right here that says, I see the same features available on GCP, AWS. Yes, you are correct. GCP and AWS has a similar offering. Oracle is obviously catching up in terms of those type of offerings, and it's doing a good job for that. My answer will be, if you're already using GCP, AWS, then probably you are okay with that. And unless you have a commercial issue or something that must be easier for you in terms of the pricing or whatever, then you may take a choice and move into Oracle, and you may have very similar services within Oracle in terms of Kubernetes and functions and all that stuff. That's exactly what I wanted to highlight in this presentation. But if you already have GCP and AWS, probably a pricing thing would be an element for you to change and to move into Oracle. Now Oracle is doing a very good job in terms of pricing. It is cheaper than the other two offerings. So that would be my answer. And the last question is, what additional features are available on Oracle Cloud? What additional features are available on Oracle Cloud? Okay, with different features in Oracle Cloud and other cloud providers. That's a good question. I think the offerings for any cloud provider now are pretty similar. And in this regard, for cloud native, I think it is the same. Those offerings looks pretty much the same. I think one major difference is pricing. I was not planning to.
Yeah, I think it's more of follow-up questions from, I think you already answered, Rolando.
Okay.
So
All
it's the
right.
same person, Satish, is asking follow-up questions. I
Okay.
think one is pricing,
Good.
you already mentioned. Yeah.
All right. So if there are no more questions, I think
Um,
we are ready to go for the quiz.
yeah, 1 second. Let me share my screen. So again, many thanks to Rolando for your time. We really enjoyed your presentation. As always, hopefully we'll get your time for next presentation very soon, maybe for Yatra. As suggested by Aishwarya, please use hashtags, and Rolando's Twitter ID is at Borland underscore C. I don't know what's the history behind that. And you can thank him by tweeting and posting in Facebook. We will send you a speaker survey today or tomorrow to all registered participants. Request you to spend a few minutes for your time and complete the survey. Then you are able to access the presentation. Again, I just want to stress on, we will not send any presentation through email. Once you complete the survey, and you will find a hyperlink to see the presentation. Okay. So we are happy to issue a certification of participation if you attend all the webinars in the month. Again, we are not going to send it to everybody. You have to reach out to webinar@aog.org, aog.org, asking about, you attended. So we'll cross check and we'll send it to you. Now exam time. Um, um, you can actually, 1 second, let me open exam. So exam questions and answers are with me. It's very simple. This time so let me share my screen. Um, yeah, so you have to go to menti.com and use code 280664 and join this quiz. I'll wait for 2 minutes and then we can start. And Rolando, you want to share the history of why it's a Borland_C in few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. I am 40 years old now. I don't look that old, but I started working with computers. I think was back in 1992, I think. But then when I started high school, I learned about C programming and Borland C. I don't know if you remember Borland C, which was kind of the standard for C. And I don't know, I have good memories about my teachers and learning how to program. And I remember the Borland C name, and because my name is Rolando, if you tweak it a little bit, then you can get the Borland C, because my last name is Carrasco. So Borland_C pretty much means my name, Rolando Carrasco, and also the Borland C standard
Okay.
C
Yeah, it's
programming
nice.
languages.
Nice to know. Yeah.
That's pretty much that's the story.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your memories. So I'll wait for 30 seconds now and we can start quiz. And it's very simple. You know the rules. You need to answer as quickly as possible. Whoever answers first, they will get more points. So use your mobile phone or whatever it may be. So let's start.
I just missed the food question. Sorry, I should have added to the quiz the similarities between India and Mexico. But anyways.
Yeah, it's only 6 answers. Just to bear with me. I started with question number 5. As always, I do some mistakes. So let me go to the question number 1. Sorry for that. So don't worry, you already answered question number 5. So okay. Oh God. I think you guys need to listen the recording session then. Only 5 people answered the right one. Go to the next question. Let's see who's actually in the leaderboard. Wow, Durga is in leaders board. Let's go to the second question.
I think this is an easy question.
Yeah, you're correct. So 27 people answered. Let's go to the third question. Leaders board. Yeah.
Durga Didya, I think. Oh.
Yes. Wow. Ashok is coming up. The fastest is actually Guru Prasad, but let's see.
All right.
Third question.
I mentioned it throughout my presentation.
Yeah.
Just be careful because I just put a tricky answer there. So. Okay, good.
Yep. It's the leaderboard. Sharad is coming up. I think it's the last question.
This is going to define.
Yeah, because they already answered the fifth question.
This I also mentioned it in my presentation. So. Okay, good.
Leaderboard. Sharad is coming up. I think this is already answered. Now we had to see the results.
Okay, good.
Wow, congratulations, Sharad. I think we'll reach out to you via email, where monitor your mailbox for a gift voucher. Okay, with that, I'll go and I'll go to the next slide. Where is that? Second. Yeah, so next week we have a webinar from Robert. He's also Oracle's and Groundbreaker ambassador. He's a very best friend of us. He's an advocate in blockchain and IoT microservices. He has written actually blockchain. Oh, this is what happens. 1 second. Oh, anyway. So he's going to talk about 10 reasons to choose Apache Pulsar or Apache Kafka for event sourcing. So what happens generally, developers know Apache Kafka, but event sourcing or CQRS pattern Kafka is not really suitable, right? So he's going to cover many reasons why you choose Pulsar or Kafka, and it is going to be a live session. So please join us next week, next Wednesday. I think it's 2 p.m. IST. Also, quick updates on Oracle Groundbreaker Yatra 2020. Due to COVID-19, we are running Oracle Groundbreaker Yatra 2020 fully online. I think we really got a good response globally. We have received around 220 papers, and we are really challenged with in the selection process. One of the thought process is instead of 15 days, we are planning to extend to 20 days because there's a really good DBA topics and developer topics. So we are currently working on it. I think before next webinar, we will announce all the details. It is going to cover database developer applications, Java, cloud infrastructure, future technologies, many more interviews, panel discussions, fireside chats. So please mark your calendars for July, 1st of July to 20th of July. I think that's really a crazy month for many of European and US people for vacations. I'm sure nobody's planned this time. So please watch out this space, ogyatra.in. That's a website, and we will announce registrations very soon. And it is going to be free registrations since it's online. With this, we will end today's webinar. Thanks to Rolando for your support, and we'll catch you very soon in Yatra. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.